Hey there, YouTubers. All right, so you got that 13th gen CPU, whether it be the i5 13600K, i7 13700K, or i9 13600K, or the KF version, and a LGA 1700 motherboard for Christmas. Now what? Let's talk about that. So I undoubtedly will get tons of these questions, as I have been for the last couple months. Probably should have made this video before, but this is dedicated to those that got hooked up at Christmas time. Did you get a Z790 or say a Z690, B660, H670, or H610 with that 13th gen CPU? If you've got a Z790, you're good. You can start your installation, right? So we're not going to talk about installation. Plenty of videos on this channel, plenty of videos on the internet. Good luck to you if that is your situation, and wise planning to just splurge for the Z790. For those that have a 600 series motherboard, this video is probably more for you. So let's continue on. Now, if you have a 600 series motherboard, you most likely will need a BIOS update. All right, it's going to be anywhere from I don't know, 5-6 more months probably to a year before the majority of 600 series motherboards have updated BIOS. So you have two options. Your motherboard has the ability to flash the BIOS without a CPU, GPU, or RAM installed, or your motherboard does not have the ability to flash the BIOS without CPU, GPU, or RAM installed. Let's look at the first option. So if you can flash your BIOS without a CPU or GPU installed, this is really good news for you, right? If you don't have the ability, I'll tell you what you can do about it here shortly. But if you can do that, hey, watch a video on the process. Type in your motherboard into YouTube, put in the BIOS update, and you should see plenty of examples. This channel has examples from Gigabyte, MSI Pro, Aorus, and ASRock. If you can't find them, or something similar, shoot me a comment and I'll try and send you a link down below. Preferably, from my channel first. But if you are going to be able to update your BIOS without the CPU or GPU or RAM, you're going to need some stuff to get this done, right? So you need your motherboard. You'll need an ATX power supply, and that power supply will need to have, obviously, a 24-pin power connector, and may or may not need the CPU power connector for the update. You'll need a thumb drive. I found that USB 2.0 that I have from Gigastone, it's a 128 gig model, formatted to FAT32, has worked great for me. And then the BIOS file. All right, so next line there, I say thumb drive most likely needs to be formatted to FAT32. All of the BIOS updates that I have seen that can be done without a CPU, GPU require the thumb drive to be formatted to FAT32. Now, doing a regular BIOS update, you can get away with all kinds of other different formats, but for this, FAT32. So the BIOS file itself needs to be downloaded from the manufacturer's website. What you're going to do is basically search for your exact model. So if it's a D4 or D5, so DDR4, DDR5, make sure you put that in the search. If it's the Wi-Fi version or non-Wi-Fi version, make sure you know that when you search for it, you don't obviously add Wi-Fi if you don't have Wi-Fi. And if you do have the Wi-Fi model, make sure it has either AC, AX, or Wi-Fi, right? So it's very important. D4 BIOS version will not work with a D5 motherboard. BIOS file will most likely need to be renamed. So every one of the ones I've done so far has had that, and that's 4 different types of motherboards. They've all had the need to rename that BIOS file Um, whether you do it when it's on the thumb drive or before, just make sure that the BIOS file gets renamed as it says in the instructions. So BIOS file, eventually, you'll need to place that on the USB thumb drive, the one that is formatted FAT32. And the thumb drive will need to be placed in an exact USB port dedicated to this process. So from what I've seen, all of these motherboards that I've done with this process have all had a dedicated BIOS USB port, right? And so you have to make sure you know exactly which one it is. Otherwise, this process will not work. Let's look at the other thing there, which is if your motherboard does not have the ability to flash the BIOS without a CPU, GPU, or RAM installed. So you're going to have to do one of three things. Buy a 12th gen CPU to do the BIOS update. For this, I recommend Intel Celeron G6900. It's the cheapest. It's going to come with its own CPU cooler, and it will be a very simple install for you. Now, once you do that, of course, you can update the BIOS. From that point, you'll be able to remove your 12th gen CPU out and put your 13th gen in, and you should be ready for your full installation at that point. Now, another option would be to return that motherboard, right? So if you bought it at Amazon, you're good through, I think, January, unless you're, somebody bought it for you months and months ago. Return it and get that 700 series motherboard. You'll actually find on some of these motherboards the difference in price between the 600 series or the C690 and the Z790 is about $60. So potentially, with you buying the Celeron to do this, you could just buy the Z790, right? But you can also sell that Celeron on eBay. So in the end, it could cost you less to do it that way. Another option, call a local computer store and see if they can do the update. If it costs more than $60, I'd say look at options number 1 or 2. Because then, at that point, hey, if I can return the motherboard, I might as well. Or if you have the capability to do this installation, then you should have the ability to update the BIOS, which would mean that you can obviously do number 1 out of the choices here. Hey folks, that's all I have for this video. I hope it helps somebody out. I answer a lot of questions on this channel and seem to give a lot of free tech support, but if this helps you out, please like it and comment below. Thank you.